Hi and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan podcast. My name is Asim Berni and I'm joined with my lovely co-host Amrita. Hey Amrita,
Hi, Assam.
where is Sujoy? Just preemptively,
uh,
the YouTube comments. I'll just ask you, where's Sujoy?
so Joy is off on a grand adventure,
Yeah.
and he will join us post that concluding.
Also, Sujoy doesn't read. This is an
Yes.
episode about the Thursday, the Thursday Murder Club. Anything, literally, like he's such a millennial. You give him anything more than 2 pages, you will get TLDR back, which I then have to Google what that means because I get confused. So that's the kind of space Khandan
There's
operates in.
a yeah, there's a reason why like Asim and I used to be on X all the time, and Sujoy was on Instagram. There's a very there's a very good reason for that.
Yeah. So we're doing a Thursday Murder Club. I don't drink tea while I'm doing the recording, but I felt for this one it was kind of appropriate to have like a cuppa,
Correct.
a cuppa.
But I hope it's like more hot water than tea because otherwise it's not the correct experience, Asim.
Yeah, no, it's actually very well brewed. I A little aside. Remember, like in K3G when they're acting like they're British, and she
Oh
says
yeah.
tea and cookies. It always bothers me that she says cookies because in England you would not say cookies, you would say biscuits.
And
Just a,
I've always wondered about that because like Karan is such an Anglophile that he literally wrote Kuch Kuch Hota Hai and K3G, and like I think like most of his movies in London, like he's
yeah,
like the muse only visits me in London.
yeah.
And then he makes like really like weird mistakes about British
Typical
culture.
Desi mentality where you go to a country and you basically just hang around with Desi people, right? That's what Karan did probably. Just that he didn't hang around with actual British people because you would know that we would not say cookies, we'd say
I think
biscuits.
his mom and dad actually went to chaperone him when
Yeah,
he first went
yeah.
as a 20-something-year-old. But
Yeah. Well, this is our Bollywood aside because we're not doing a Bollywood episode, but I had to force it in one way or the other. Otherwise, it doesn't feel like Khandan. But we're talking about the Thursday Murder Club.
before we get into that, I just wanted to give a shout out to our Patreon and our Patreon family. You should join us on Patreon because that's where you get early access to our episodes, exclusive bonus content, and also the kind of nonsense that we really can't be posting outside of Patreon. So join us on patreon.com/Khandaan podcast and see what the magic is happening.
Our latest cold case is from May the 11th, 1973.
Oh my God. Isn't this room usually for jigsaws?
Not on a Thursday, no.
Why are we talking about this so late, Amrita?
We just couldn't be bothered. I thought about coming up with like a good excuse, but honestly, anybody that has been like following our podcast knows that we get around to things in our own good time rather
Hmm.
than like other people's good time.
Yeah.
So, which is why we are never on anything trending. Like, like you don't come here for trending.
No. But yeah, we still wanted to talk about it. Basically, I saw the movie and I texted you, Amrita, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because both of us read, not me as much as you do. Obviously, you have a book channel about reading, although it's not been updated in a while, I think. But you are a very fervent reader, and whenever even I'm in a bookstore and I'm buying a book, I will text Amrita, what should I buy? And then I don't get a reply when I end up buying some shitty book that I'm not going to read anyway. So, but yeah, the intention is there, the planning is there, which is a good story for, an illustration for Khandan. Um, so this movie came out. It's been,
I just want to say, by the way, the reason why I don't reply to Asim is not because like I'm sabotaging his reading habits. The reason why I don't reply to him is because my phone is usually lying somewhere, and I don't get around to it. So people who know me also know that I reply very late to texts. Once in a while, I'm on my phone when somebody texts me, and then I'll text you back. But otherwise, I literally spent the entire weekend like apologizing to people who are just like, why don't you ever text us back? And I'm like, I did in my head. And then I never actually texted it. So sorry about that. But anyway, you continue. You were saying.
So this is a book series written by Richard Osman.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. I think the third or fourth book came out, I think, or the third book
I think the fourth book is out now, or
is
it's
out.
coming out this
Yeah.
year.
I've
Yeah.
read the first two. I've not read the whole
Same.
series. Yeah.
Same.
What did you think of the series, the book series as a whole?
I mean, when the series first came out, like it was the sensation of that year. You
Yeah.
know, the Thursday Murder Club, when it came out, everybody read it, everybody loved it, and it was honestly one of like I really liked it. You know, I didn't have a contrarian opinion about it. It was funny, it was affecting, it was about a group of elderly people who were living in a retirement home and found a new community at like the fag end of their lives, you know, just when they thought that they would never find family again or find friendship again. And they would never have been friends in other circumstances, like if they had been in their like the younger selves in their usual lives. A, their lives would never have intersected, and B, even if it had intersected, they wouldn't have been friends. But because of circumstances and the fact that they're all elderly and they're in the same place, they find each other and then they become like really good friends. And I think that's like a very universal thing, you know, like it's something that I know that I have experienced in my life because I've led a fairly nomadic life, as have you, Asim. And we've lived in like different places and in different communities. And I think we both have an appreciation of what it feels like to move to a different country, a different culture, and then start from like, you know, step one with building a community. And I think we both have a really good idea of just how important it is to have that community and that sense of belonging to whatever place that we live in, and how we feel alienated sometimes, even though we've stayed in a place for a long time. And it's usually the people that bring us back to it. And that for these people, even though they're all British and they're all, you know, like they're not really talking about, at least in the first two books, they're not really talking about, you know, like race and gender and things. Well, they talk about gender a little bit, but they're not really talking about like racial differences and stuff, even though one of them is Ibrahim.
Which is a very British thing to obviously, you know.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about it.
It's a
It'll be fine.
paradise.
It'll be fine.
And yeah, it was just a very it was a very affecting sort of, there's certain passages that I still remember about, you know, the way they talk about the place where the residents are sent to hospice care at the end of their lives. And one of the characters has a husband who has dementia or Alzheimer's, I can't remember which. And, you know, like she's very careful to take care of him because she doesn't want to send him into hospice. And there's like, it's a very affecting book as well as being like very funny. And there's a murder mystery, which is always fun to a certain group of people, such as myself.
Yeah.
But it's not like a very like gory murder mystery or anything. It's just the perfect amount of murder mystery, the perfect amount of murder, you know.
I think you and me both also just share the fantasy that we will retire all living next door to each other, and we'll find some place where we all just buy houses. So we have our own space, because we don't also, that's the kind of people we are.
Yes.
We also need our own space, but
Yes.
close enough that we can, you know, come for breakfast and things like that. But yeah. And also I think our age, it speaks to a fear of ours, because we're obviously seeing our parents get slightly older. And so these are questions that we're asking ourselves, but then also just questions that we are asking about our own future. So I think it definitely lands in where our age group and our demographic kind of, you know, it kind of appeals to us. For me, this book. So I used to read a lot, and then I quit when I had my daughter. I just couldn't find the time and the rhythm. And I actually asked you, like, what are books that are like easier reads that I can kind of warm myself up with. And this was one of those books that it was such an easy. It is one of those airport novels, you know. It's one of those novels that you hit the London Underground and you see pretty much everybody has the same book cover, and that was definitely what the Thursday Murder Club was. And it's a very easy, very quick read. I think this with murder mysteries, there's two kinds in a way. I feel A is the that you can figure it out, like you know the breadcrumbs are there and you can kind of figure it out. And the other way is that there's no way you can figure it out. Like it just a completely different, bizarre turn of events where you wouldn't have not been able. Like it might be somebody else that's a character that's introduced later on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it doesn't matter whether
Yeah,
you can figure it out or not, because the point of the book is not the murder at all. The point of the book
exactly.
is everything else that's happening
Yeah.
around the murder.
Yeah, and I think this kind of straddled that middle ground really well, where you thought you could have figured it out, and I think it's that appeals in that kind of classic Agatha Christie kind of way. I think it's very much a kind of a continuation of a tradition of these kind of murder mysteries, and in a way, it's nothing new, but it is kind of a fresh approach to that. So I think that probably is what is successful of the reason of the success. And I also just think it's one of those very British kind of things, you know. It's kind of like, you know, a very British quaint kind of
Yeah,
Somerset murders kind of old
yeah,
people, you know, kind of thing that is very like a very British thing, you know. It's never really gory, it never gets really super violent in a way, seedy, but it's just kind of like a lark in a way. Oh, a murder and we solved it, you know. Like, oh, how pleasant, you know. So what did you think when the I also feel when I was reading the book that this is meant to be adapted. Like you can sometimes read a
yes.
book that you see, oh, this is very much meant as a screenplay for and I think that's a very smart approach by Richard Osman, because I just being a writer is not something that is, you know.
I don't think this was as blatant as some of the other books that are
Hmm.
like that though. Like
Yeah,
it is a book. If it had never been made into a movie or a series,
yeah,
it would still have worked as a book.
yeah,
But it's very adaptable as well,
hmm.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So yeah.
So what did you think when it was announced, the casting? That was a big thing, right? The casting that was announced.
Yeah, so the casting is Helen Mirren, um, Pierce Brosnan,
Hmm.
Ben Kingsley, and Celia Emery. And yeah, I there's like a couple of those that I was just like, I don't understand. The Ben Kingsley thing was hilarious. It was the most British casting possible
But because
because,
like it's been a while I read the book, and everybody's
uh-huh.
talking about the differences between the book and the. We'll get into that a little bit. But in my mind, Ibrahim was black. Like he was a darker person. Have I imagined that? Have I projected that myself?
So I think the stylistic mold was like Omar Sharif. Like
Oh,
that was, I think,
for me, he
what
was like,
everyone was
like
thinking.
African. Like he was like
Well, he's
dark African.
Egyptian. Like he's supposed to be Egyptian,
Hmm.
so you're not wrong. Like,
Yeah,
he would be black.
yeah.
But I think like in the fan cast community, like they were imagining Omar Sharif.
Hmm.
But if you were thinking Omar Sharif and you got Ben Kingsley, I'm sorry, but that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. Um, uh, and then they got Pierce Brosnan for Ron, which I'm sorry, like
The-
you immediately have thoughts.
Yeah, no, it's just like that's not how I had imagined it. Him, like I thought Ray Winstone. That's what I had in my mind. You
Yeah,
know, that's the kind of
yeah.
like a gruff kind of thing. I think Brosnan is just too posh and kind of, you know. I think he did great, but I thought it's not what I had imagined. But I think that's the thing with books, right? It's what you imagine and what you see on screen is never the same thing, right? So I think I was like, okay with it. At least it was like, oh, they're spending money, they're getting people that are kind of famous, so this is a serious movie. This is not like, a TV movie in a way.
I think they really leaned into the fact that Ron is supposed to be a bit of a lady killer.
Yeah,
And they just went for like the biggest lady killer they could find in that age group, which was probably Pierce Brosnan. But that is not it. Like Ron is not an obvious lady killer. Like Pierce
yeah.
Brosnan is obviously he's Pierce Brosnan. He's
So
beautiful.
hot. He's still so hot.
Yeah. Like
Knowing.
obviously people want him, but that's not who Ron is. Like Ron is not walking into a room and people are going like, "Oh my god, you could totally be James Bond." That is not the vibe. Like he's very working class. He's a union leader,
Yeah,
like a hyper violent like 70s socialist, which is a completely different breed of animal from anything that Pierce Brosnan has within his wheelhouse. And then Helen Mirren was fine. Like, yeah, sure. Like, of course she's Elizabeth. Like, that makes sense
yeah.
to me.
Yeah, it was either her or Judi Dench. Like those are the two
Yeah.
names that you would think
Yeah.
of, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, which
Um,
the joke that she looks like the Queen would make more sense if it was maybe Judi Dench too, like that kind of thing. But it
Helen
also
Mirren
makes sense
also
with
played, yeah, Helen
yeah,
Mirren
yeah,
played the
it also
queen.
makes yeah,
And then this Celia Emery, I don't know, like I don't know if that's who I envisioned as
really, I
Joyce.
didn't imagine anybody as Joyce because for me it was just
Yeah.
random old white lady, so it was fine. I was like, okay, fine, works.
And I think like I think I genuinely had the same issue as well because
Mm,
like I didn't. She just seemed like somebody who would be like like an older white lady with a libido. And I
yeah,
was just like, well, okay, I didn't really like see anybody much, so I was just like,
yeah,
fine, this
yeah,
person can be you know
mm,
Joyce, I guess. I
yeah,
don't care. But I
yeah.
thought she'd skew a little younger than the rest. I
Mm.
was a little bit thrown. But then, yeah, who knows,
Mm.
And also, I didn't like. I was taken aback by the fact that they cast what's his face, Tom. I always want to say Tom Felton. His name is not Tom Felton. The Lucifer guy for Ron's son. Um,
The Lucy, Tom Ellis,
Tom Ellis, that's his
right?
name.
Right.
And I was thrown by that, but
Mm.
he was good. Like Tom
Yeah,
Ellis, he
yeah.
was funny. I thought he was. I mean, he's pretty funny as Lucifer as well. But
Didn't look
he
like an
was
old boxer though, but chalo,
no,
yeah. What did you think? I also really like the casting of Naomi Aki as Donna. That's one I also really
yeah,
enjoyed. The casting
yeah,
overall I thought was really well done. Like it wasn't like the main forecast. It wasn't exactly what I imagined, but I thought it's a serious movie because a lot of times you'll feel like, oh, it's just a TV movie, especially in Britain. It could be that, right? Like if they don't spend the right amount of money, it could be just any other murder mystery set in a quaint British town. But I think it's really elevated to kind of a event movie, and I thought that was kind of cool in this one.
yeah.
So, what did you think of the movie?
Um, Overall, I liked it. I mean, these are all like really good actors, they're just like really, but when we talk about something like this, it's a streaming movie.
Mm,
It doesn't really need star power as such. And the characters are really well written with a lot of context. If you want background on these characters, all you need to do is like pick up a book and like
mm,
read, because each of the books, at least the two books that I've read, they really delve into the past stories of these characters and who they are, etc. So they could have gone with actors who were more true to the part. And I'm sorry to just keep beating this drum, but it really did throw me off a bit, especially with like some of the more comedic scenes. I feel would have done better if I didn't know all the stars that were in that scene.
mm,
I'm thinking particularly of the scene where like Ibrahim is calculating the distance and the
Mm.
time it takes to get from point A to point B, and everybody else is just like, "What the hell?" And the reactions are like really funny because like they're all good comedic actors, but if you had actually gotten somebody who could like really inhabit those characters, it would have been even funnier.
Mm.
Like the way that like Pierce Brosnan as Ron just sort of rolls his eyes. That would have been like way funnier with
Mm.
like somebody who was just like a big, beefy, like, trade unionist sort of
Mm.
dude. So that would have been better, I think. But overall, yeah, the movie was fine. And but it's very much a streaming movie. There was no, I didn't feel like I was hard done by because it didn't come out in the theaters. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right. Right. Right.
I didn't feel like, oh, I should have gone to the movies to watch this one.
Mm.
I was very happy that it came out on Netflix. And also, man, justice for Bogdan. Like, I really, like, I don't even know how they're going to write around it
Yeah.
because Bogdan is a character. He's there, like, at least in like all the books that we've read. So
Mm.
how are they going to write around that? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's just going to be like an indictment of the British justice system when even somebody does get arrested, it doesn't really matter. They'll get free very quickly. Maybe that's something that they're trying to, push in there. I don't know. I don't know. I think for me, it was when I was watching it, I was like, this really wants to be the next Knives Out. Like, this is what it
Hmm.
wants to be, right? And I don't think that's a bad approach. I know you're not a huge fan of Knives Out. It's a series that I absolutely adore, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm already kind of like looking at the reviews that the third part is coming out. So I think that's what they're trying to build up, and that's what it's like. I don't think all of the elements are quite correct, but I think it's all you bring so much baggage when you read the books, right? And it's how many times have you read the book, watched the movie, and said, "Oh, the movie was actually better." I would say it would be very, maybe once or twice
Seldom.
that's happened. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's not happened a lot. I know a lot of people use The Godfather as an example that the movie is actually better, but I mean that's like literally one of the best movies ever made. So it's if the bar is that high. So I don't think you, as a book reader, you can ever really be that satisfied. um I was watching it with my family and they quite enjoyed it and they had not read the books. So I think that's also something you need to take into account that, for people that are watching it that haven't read the books, they're just watching something on their couch. It landed on the
Hmm.
weekend. It's kind of a perfect movie. It's like very also, it's kind of like a family movie. You can just watch it with everybody and it's nothing is in there that you would feel odd about or too violent or gory. Like I said, a very pleasant British kind of show, movie. I mean, so I think I kind of appreciated that in this, and I think also just the director Chris Columbus, who's made some amazing movies. He's done Home Alone, he's done Harry Potter. I mean, like he's such an established director who hasn't been directing for a long time. He This is the kind of movie he makes, but like with Harry Potter, I think he set the template for then next directors to add more to it, enhance it, make it a bit more specific. And I think that's maybe something that they can build out with the next movies, because it has been very successful. I think it's been quite successful on Netflix. People were watching it, people were enjoying it a lot. So I think I'm pretty sure the second one will be coming out. So I think maybe that's something that they can then refine, like Chris Columbus did with Harry Potter, where the world was set up in the first movie, and then the next movies, other directors came in and kind of gave it a bit more nuance, a bit more specificity.
No, what you're saying makes perfect sense because there is a dearth of the old-fashioned British murder mystery,
Mm.
right? Like because if you look back and you look at the shows that have been coming out and that have been successful on a worldwide scale, you have something like Department Q, for example, which is a psychological thriller,
Mm.
really. You have something like, say, The Bodyguard that came out, a few years ago. Remember what a huge hit that was, and it really like launched the career of Richard Madden, but also it was pretty violent. It's
Yeah.
not something that you would put on with your 5-year-old in the room.
Even something like
This
Broadchurch was very popular, but had
Broad,
some very
yeah,
dark themes in it too. You know.
yeah.
Hmm.
And you wouldn't watch it with your kids, like,
Hmm.
and if you are watching Broadchurch with your kids, like, what's wrong with you and what are you doing?
So you
But
need to have a conversation after watching Broadchurch. You know.
bad touch, bad touch.
Yeah.
But you can absolutely watch this, with your kids in the room. And that's also a pretty sad commentary on the state of affairs today, because it's literally about like human trafficking and shit. And we are just like, that's
Yeah.
fine. That's
In the
like
grand scheme of things, the way the world is going.
child appropriate.
Yeah.
Like every child should see this. Um, yeah, but it's a very, like, you know what you said about this evoking a sense of England in a way that you would expect with something like Agatha Christie. It's
Hmm.
very like sunshiny, and like the green hills of England, and they're all living in a stately manner, and it's all
Only
very
white
like
people. Only white
only
people.
white people
There's
as
like
far
no,
as the eye can
yeah,
see.
except Donna, who's also stuck around white people. But again, it's never mentioned. It's never a thing, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
it's very British. It's the way sometimes people outside of Paris, France, think of Paris in a way, and then they go there, and it's like, oh my god.
Why are there so many black people?
Yeah.
Paris has fallen.
Yeah.
Paris has fallen. But yeah, it's a very safe show in that way, and they're not trying to do anything edgy. They literally got Ben Kingsley, who's like the most whitewashed brown person on the
It's the
planet.
brownest they could go. Like that's how far the shading goes, Ben Kingsley.
uh, the brownest they could go is like a light beige.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of show it is, and it's very comforting to watch, honestly speaking, because I'd rather that they didn't make the effort than like try and make the effort and do it badly. So I'm just like, you know
I
what,
find it
it's fine.
anxiety inducing actually. Like I don't find it comforting when it's like a lack of diversity actually gives me anxiety. Like if I start
Uh,
imagining myself in that situation and the
no.
microaggressions that would be in that case, I would be, oh my god.
Yeah.
So
The
yeah.
trick is to never insert yourself into any of these things,
Hmm.
because you don't belong there. Like that is not for you.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you must imagine yourself in there, then you also have to imagine yourself as like the white version of yourself, preferably with like a title and a genteel fortune. So that's
Ag-
the only way to do it.
Again, one of those desi mentality things. Like I can pass. Like I can pass. No, you can't. Like, this is the trick they've been playing with us for 200 years now. Like understand, we do not pass. They're literally having race riots at this moment in this country.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a bit of an anomaly for 2025, I would say, the
Hmm.
way that, but I think it's meant to be a bit of an anomaly for 2025.
It's a
It's
fantasy. It's a
meant,
fantasy.
yeah,
It's a fantasy on
that's
so
what it
many
is.
levels, and
Yeah,
obviously, race is one of those fantasies.
yeah.
You mentioned justice for Bogdan earlier. They have made some changes between the book, and I think the Bogdan storyline is one of the major plot points that has completely been changed. I don't know
Hmm.
how they will be adapting it, but yeah, Bogdan is a. I like Bogdan. Like I liked him as a character, especially in the second book where they sketch him out a little bit more,
Yeah,
and he really becomes part of the crew. Here, I don't know how they'll do it, but I'm not worried about it. I'm sure they'll find it. I just felt that the storyline didn't do Bogdan justice. That was more the problem that I was having. And obviously, you
I
need to
think,
adapt. I understand it. You cannot build the world
yeah,
as large as you do in a book. You cannot add that level of detail and nuance. But I just felt some of the decisions made, and these were not made by Richard Osman, the writer. He kind of handed it over to the writing team. Um, I don't feel they were as satisfying as they were in the book, unfortunately.
I think partly the reason why Bogdan's arc didn't land as well in the movie is because a lot of his footage was eaten up by David Tennant.
Hmm.
Because when David Tennant comes in, you cannot give, like, he's like one of those actors that you cannot give him a bit part, because he will take it and he will run with it like his life depends on it, you know. And he's such like an overwhelming presence that he sort of like eats up all the attention. And so that little scene in the cemetery between Elizabeth and Bogdan, that's basically the only thing that you had left in the story for you to connect with Bogdan, and it just didn't really work. You know,
Mm.
like you needed to layer it in a little bit more, and or else it should have been like, you know, like they figure it out and then they don't like nothing happens to Bogdan because like the crew decides, oh, you know what, let's never mind. Like, but they like that was like another one of the things where the storyline deviated from the books, because while the core four in the books do have a strong moral sense of justice and whatnot, but they're also pretty relaxed about morals, you
Yeah.
know. Like they're happily looking the other way. Like you have the sense that Ron was up to a lot of shady shit. You know that you know for a fact that Elizabeth was up to a lot of shady stuff.
Mm.
Joyce certainly is not, you know, crusading for morality, and Ibrahim has like the ability to sort of um, argue himself into a state of neutrality. So I don't know why they suddenly had to be like, oh, but like justice and like we must
Mm.
have you arrested.
Yeah.
So that seemed like a false note to me.
I also found like maybe it was also we should have known with the casting because I didn't feel like Bogdan was played by Henry Lloyd
Mm,
Hughes and he's not a big name, right? Like at least I
yeah,
don't know him from anything I've
yeah.
seen
I
he's
don't
been
know him
acting.
either.
So maybe that was a reason that maybe he will have a diminished role because he's not one of a big name casting in a way that like pretty much everybody else is. He's the only one that I've literally never seen or heard of before.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that was kind of interesting. Also, I mean, I might be misremembering, but wasn't the pastor, Father Mackey, played by Joseph Marcel, which I was so happy to see that, Jeffrey was still alive. I did not know the actor who played Jeffrey in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was still, among us. Um,
I did not pay attention. I didn't notice. I didn't notice.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought in the book he had like a bigger role, but maybe it's something that I'm misremembering. Yeah, it's been a while since I read the book, and I might be
Hmm. Hmm.
confusing the second one with the first one. But yeah, there were a few of these elements that I mean, there's whole list available on the internet between every minute change, and honestly, I don't care about every minute change unless you have any. For me, it was really that Ibrahim was much whiter than I thought. Piers Morgan was, not as rough and tough as I thought in my mind, and then the Bogdan bit, which I thought just wasn't satisfying enough, unfortunately for me.
Just want to point out it's Pierce Brosnan and not Pierce Morgan,
Did I
because
say
you're
that? Oh my
too,
god! Yeah, yeah,
too. Like you
yeah.
don't mention that name.
Just free
Yeah.
Palestine. That's what constantly in my mind. That's what's going on. Yeah. So, I mean, those are the three. What are your hopes or what are your things for this second part, which probably will be coming on being announced? What do you think that hoping that they change? What do you think? Because the story is also it is a bit more violent. I would say the second one than the first
Yeah,
one.
the
There's
second
something
one,
quite horrible.
yeah.
I don't know if you want to spoil anything, but
Yeah. No, like yeah, there's quite a bit of actual violence that happens
mm,
to a very defenseless character in the second book, if I remember correctly. But
mm,
let's just say like ghosts of the past return to haunt our core crew, and it's kind of sad. But I just hope they bring Bogdan back, because I don't know how you're going to tell that particular story without Bogdan,
yeah,
because you need Bogdan's emotional investment in order to make that entire story work. Like, what are they going to do? Like, find another, like, you know, sort of like gray character with criminal undertones to, fall in love with that character and like basically help them out? Like, how? I
yeah.
don't see. I don't see how that happens.
Yeah. Also, I just feel in the second one, the race becomes a much larger element than the first one.
Hmm.
Like not on
Yeah.
just one what you're mentioning, but also just kind of romantically, it becomes more of a thing,
Yeah.
right? So I think
Yeah.
that I'm kind of wondering in terms of casting, they'll have to introduce some new characters. I'm really wondering how those elements will be kind of changing. I'm also, maybe they'll just add, maybe Jason, the guy, Tom Ellis, will, maybe he will be a Bogdan kind of
Maybe
substitute. Maybe that's something that they're working with. Who
that's
knows?
actually a good point. Yeah, maybe they've, but there you go. A white man takes an immigrant's job, like right there. That's just typical.
Yeah, the
Um,
diversity is dead, Amrita. We're not. It's
yes,
Britain
we
2025.
don't
This is
do it
how it's
anymore.
supposed to be.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, there are definitely ways to do it, but they will be either having. The thing is, they've painted themselves in the corner, I feel, with Bogdan a little bit. Even if they kind of bring him out, then it weakens the first movie, right? So it is a
Yeah.
very strong choice that they've made, but I don't know what they'll be doing in the next one to kind of get themselves out of this corner. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I also, however much I like Chris Columbus, I do feel there's certain very generic filmmakers. Like I'm thinking Chris
Hmm.
Columbus, also thinking Ron Howard. Like that's always kind of a very generic filmmaker I think of. I would like somebody that has a bit more bite. I know that's one of the reasons I love Knives Out so much, because it's very from the mind of Ryan Johnson, and he is a director that loves to kind of be funny and comedic and meta and like sometimes too smart for his own good. And I know that's
Hmm.
something that annoys you about the Knives Out series, maybe. But I like that approach a little bit more. Whereas here, I feel it's kind of like very template, very generic. So maybe they can bring somebody with a bit more kind of bite. But I don't know if this is such a franchise that would need that. But yeah, it could be interesting what a new director maybe could bring to this franchise.
I think I think that would be interesting to maybe like people like you and myself, but
Hmm.
I think the charm of this franchise is that it is, as the books anyway, is that it's sort of dependable and
Yeah.
vanilla and
Hmm.
nice,
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Does this movie want to make you read the third book?
Not particularly, but I will read the third book anyway. Like I
Yeah.
will, at some point, I will go back to, um, like whenever I feel like picking up. I haven't been reading murder mysteries for a while now.
Hmm.
I'm thoroughly caught in, well, I've been reading murder mysteries, but I've been reading fantasy murder mysteries. That's been my genre for the past like 18 months, I would say. Like that's what I've been reading hardcore. So whenever that fades, I think I might go back to this.
Hmm. Okay. Well, until then, Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ, but like we're really just on Patreon, so you should check that out. It's called Khandaan Podcast, and yeah, we are posting all kinds of behind the scenes stuff. We do catch ups. Asim does a letterboxed review of all the stuff that he's seen, and it's always a wild ride. And it's just a fun time. So you should come check that out.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Patreon. Patreon is the way we grow. We love our little community over there, and I hope you are enjoying this conversation. And we'll be back with something soon.